You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. This is Making Tracks. Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster.
That's not true. That's impossible.
You're listening to Making Tracks. I'm your co-host Mark Newbold, and joining me today on this wonderfully hot June day is a man who is a man who is a man. It's Mark Mulcaster. Mark, how you doing?
Well, that clearly sounds like somebody who hasn't prepared a decent introduction to his episode.
Well, you know, sometimes you got to wing it. You just got to see where it goes, and sometimes it comes, and hey, sometimes it doesn't.
But to answer your question, I'm very well, my friend. I'm good, and yes, it's been lovely and warm again, which is kind of cool.
Or not,
depending on how you like the heat. I like the heat as long as I'm not on a beach because I don't like sand.
Classic. How have you been, and what have you been up to? Because this time of year it's generally pretty busy for conventions and stuff like that. So how have you been tootling along?
I've been good, but I tell you what, I've last couple of weekends and stuff, I've just had like lots of other real life stuff on, which has partly kind of been catching up on things that I had to put on the back burner over the the winter months and the lead up to celebrations. So I've had a few weekends where I've had to kind of bite the bullet and not sign up to any troops, and I've got another weekend like that coming this weekend. But then after that, as we roll into July and London Film Comic Con and other things, then I should be back at it, I hope. So yeah, how about yourself? How's things?
Very similar. Managed to get some jobs done around the house, and the garden has been unweeded, the front and the back, so the front and the back of the house looks nice, and we've had all the gutterings cleaned, and the window frames have been cleaned, and the house looks sparkly and shiny for once in a forever, so I'm rather pleased with that. And yeah, in terms of events, since MCOM, which was a couple of weekends ago in Nottingham, not a lot, and there's nothing much coming up this weekend, although saying that, not an awful lot going on conventions-wise. The focus right now is planning and plotting and organising for LFCC, which is a bit of a biggie, isn't it?
Yeah, it's turning into be a big one, which is fantastic. And what's quite nice is the entire weight of planning the Star Wars Zone for London Film Comic Con doesn't rest on my shoulders, and it doesn't rest on your shoulders. It rests on Mr. Dave Tree's shoulders. And so I'm sure he is starting to buckle under the weight, but hopefully we'll be there to take a load off when we can. I would think now that some of the announcements have started to roll out from showmasters about specific things in the Star Wars Zone, that things are moving along. So it should be a really fun weekend, and I'm hoping it's going to just be as enjoyable as it was last year. And I think we raised a decent amount of money last year for Angel Man. This year we're going to be raising for Make-A-Wish, which is the charity that we selected for Star Wars Celebration Europe back in April. So we're going to continue the partnership with them. Hopefully a good, fun, albeit slightly tiring weekend.
First things first, bit of news, and I want to get your opinion on this, Mark, because this one, well, I think it's a bit of a head-scratcher. They've announced, they being the grand Disney, of course, have moved some Marvel projects. They've shifted some dates. Some have moved a few months, some have moved an entire year, but also some Star Wars projects have moved around as well. We now have 2 Star Wars films in 2026, one on the 22nd of May and one on the 18th of December. The first of which has moved from the 19th of December 2025, and a third one on the 17th of December 2027.
I tell you what, I know some of the scuttlebutt is obviously blaming the fact that there's an ongoing writer's strike, and obviously these Star Wars films, but I'd imagine they don't have a script, or if they have a script, it's in early development, so therefore, yes, there's going to be some delays because of that. Based on the fact that he's taken control again of the Disney Corp, and what's really, I think, the main driving force behind there being the sequel trilogy coming out every year anyway. I wonder if this has come from Disney, and I wonder if it's come from Bob Iger. If it is, then surely he's got a very short memory, because look kind of what happened with the fallout after Last Jedi and then Solo coming out literally, 6 months later. It could very well just be the fact that they haven't decided which film is coming out when. They're going to maybe shuffle the May film down. Because again, like I said, a lot can happen in that time, and we know what films are like, and we know what Lucasfilm and Star Wars film production's like at the moment. It's up and down, and it seems like you're getting a greenlit film, but actually it's more of a just, oh yeah, we think we're going to head down this route, and then we find out that actually they've stopped developing it. So it's interesting, very curious, but also at the same time, Star Wars in May is always nice. Watch this space and see what happens.
Yeah, I wonder whether or not they're going to change it up and do a part 1 and a part 2, which I hope they don't do, because they're all kind of part 1, part 2, part 3, whatever. So I hope they don't do it as on the nose as that. When you think back to that Last Jedi era, and then Solo's coming out 5.5 months later, whatever it was. Hang on, no, I've already seen that. That one came out a few months ago. No, this is a whole brand new one with Han Solo in it. And I think even Bob Iger came out and said, well, that's kind of on me.
Yeah, he totally did.
And so to sort of do this again, they've either got to have a real focused plan, or alternatively, they've shifted the one back from December 2025 to May 2026, and the one that is now on the 18th of December 2026, maybe they're just keeping that slot. Maybe they haven't moved it yet. Maybe that'll move back to May of 27. I don't know. Maybe it's just placeholder dates. But of course, we've got the three films. We've got the Charmin Abe-Chinoy film. We've got the Dave Filoni film. We've got the James Mangold film. We keep hearing the Taika thing is still going ahead. What's going to drop into what slot?
Sometimes we look at what Marvel does in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they, I think, get away with being able to do multiple films because they're not called Marvel. They're called Guardians of the Galaxy or the Avengers or so.
Their own IP.
They are totally their own IP. Whereas everything with Star Wars, always, it doesn't matter if you say Solo, but there's always Star Wars in the title somewhere. And I think that gets obviously lost in the wash. It's like, it's another Star Wars film. Oh, okay, that's a Star Wars film. I mean, okay, let's be fair. The marketing machine at Disney and Lucasfilm learned a lot from what happened with the marketing and the promotion of Solo. Whether or not actually they've taken a step back and gone, well, how much of it is just down to bad timing? How much is actually down to the fact that we weren't confident or had a strong product to push out? And how much of that was actually because of the fallout of The Last Jedi, and there's a lot of negativity and a lot of people still talking about that film that was kind of crossing streams and crossing people's news feeds and getting things really confused. It might have just been a bad storm in a teacup, and this time it might be something different and it might actually work. But like you said, if it is actually part 1 and a part 2, a proper to be continued storyline, that would be quite interesting. Something they've not done before, and I think that would be quite fun just to see.
Hi, this is Dorian Kinji, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
Good news, MCM Comic Con Birmingham is coming back to the NEC in, believe it or not, Birmingham on the 1st to the 3rd of December. That's a Friday to the Sunday at the start of December. Great event. It's been going forever and a day. Used to be called Memorabilia. Started in around about 93, 94 from my best recollection. I should know because I was at the very first one. Always brings great guests and people like yourself, Mark. You've had some good weekends up at Birmingham. Any good memories of travelling up the motorway for events at the NEC?
Oh, loads. Too numerous to count. But yeah, it's the thing I think that makes the MCM Birmingham's really special. Actually, it's not so much for the Comic Con, but it's just for vibe. Because we tend to get a lot of costume groups there, it becomes more of a social thing. UK Garrison used to hold their bash on the Saturday night of MEM, and there's always something about MEM, even though sometimes there was a couple of extra troops that you might pick up in the tail end of the year. Like, MEM always felt like the end of the Comic Con season, and so there was something about that, so it was a bit of a blowout. So yeah, the fact that we moved it to the first weekend of December, that just means that we extend the Comic Con year a little bit and the trooping calendar a bit. Hopefully we'll be up looking forward to it, and need to book my hotel
and come and have a blast on my arcade machine.
Absolutely.
You mentioned the convention season. They've announced that MegaCon is going to be at the Excel in January.
Yeah.
That break is only going to be about 6 or 7 weeks before that kicks off. So we're already looking at an early start next year. But happening this year, 9th and 10th of September, over at the Marriott Convention Center in Burbank in California, US of A, is Legends Con. You and me sat down with Katherine Winchell. We had a bit of a chat about Legends Con. It was a long and very interesting conversation. So here's the first part of Marks and Marks chat with Katherine Winchell from Legends Con. So we're joined on this episode of Making Tracks by Katherine Winchell. We are here to talk about Legends Con, which is an event that's happening near the end of the year. I know a little bit about it, but Katherine knows way more than I do. Welcome back to the show. It's been a while since you've been on.
Yeah, it's been almost 2 years because I was on in June of 2021 to talk about Pride Squadron. So, yeah.
Where has that gone? But you're not here to talk about that this time, although I'm sure we will get around to it.
Yes.
Legends Con. Fill us in a little bit about Legends Con. Tell us what the plan is for the event.
Yes. So Legends Con, as you might guess from the name, is a convention celebrating Star Wars Legends, also known as Star Wars Expanded Universe. This was born from a group of people who have event playing experience, who love Legends, and just really want to have a place to celebrate it that is positive and inclusive. And we're just going to have a good time. There's not a lot of spaces for Legends anymore. The fandom, it's a little bit harder to find a place to be a fan of it and celebrate it. So we decided to make it ourselves. And we're so excited. It's going to be in Burbank, California on September 9th and 10th. We have a great guest list already. We're still looking to add more. Our top two are Randy Stradley of Dark Horse Comics, who actually reached out to us, which was awesome, and Matthew Stover of Shatterpoint, Revenge of the Sith novelization, Luke Skywalker and the Shadows of Mindor, and New Jedi Order Traitor. And those two are coming from out of town. Part of why we picked California, though, is because there are so many people who worked on the Expanded Universe local to the Los Angeles area. And those are Sean Stewart, who wrote Yoda Dark Rendezvous, who has never done a convention before. So I'm so excited for him to be like welcomed into the Star Wars family, like in person, because he's never experienced that before. And I think that's something that the fandom is really excellent with, is just making these authors feel so at home and feel so loved and appreciated for their work. And so I'm super excited for that. Barbara Hambly as well. She doesn't do many events anymore, so we're really excited to bring her out. And Karina Betchko, she did Legacy Volume 2. Those came out so close to the end of the Legends timeline that she never really got much of a chance to do the whole tour of things. We're really excited to have her and, give her that experience. And Abel Pina, who wrote so many things for Star Wars Insider and some guidebooks. We're super excited to have him. And then Craig Miller, who was the OG director of fan relations at Lucasfilm, and ran Bantha Tracks for a couple of years. So those are the 7 guests that we have so far. We're still working on more. We have everything else that you would expect of a convention. We have panels both by those guests that I just listed, as well as fan-generated panels. We are doing a micro fan film festival on one of the days, and we have a costume contest and a fashion show on another of the days. We're bringing in vendors who have things that are related to Star Wars Legends as well as the wider universe. So like you can go around and all of the art, like Mara Jade is one of my favorite characters, and I'm always, on the hunt at conventions looking for art, and, I usually find nothing. But here, you'll be able to find many things. You'll have all the Mara art you could possibly want to choose from. And we're also planning to do photo shoots. I come from a cosplay background. A bunch of the other people working on this do as well. And we're really excited for that aspect of it. We actually did a photo shoot in January in order to get like promotional materials, and it was 13 cosplayers who came out for that, and that was just so much fun. It's gonna be a fantastic community event. We haven't had anything like it before, so I'm so excited to bring this to the community.
Now that there seems to be a more general acceptance of for Filoniverse pulling in Legends characters and concepts, are you finding there's a resurgence in the love and appreciation of Star Wars Legends in general, or do you find that there's always been a healthy kind of like support for this kind of area in the fandom?
I think the answer is both. Like there those of us who are hardcore into Star Wars and we grew up on these books, our love for those books has not gone away just because that's not what is currently coming out. And like in terms of costumes that I do, like I have a Mara Jade costume. I also have a Hera Syndulla costume. And, the Hera costume is more recognized by the general public than my Mara costume is. But when people do recognize my Mara costume, they are so excited to see somebody doing a Mara Jade costume because it is more of a rare thing. And I think there's a lot of fans who, if given an opportunity to celebrate the stuff that came before the Disney buyout in a, positive environment would jump on the chance. And we are seeing that, as well as interest in, I think what the Filoni-verse has brought in is more of interest from new fans, like Thrawn being brought into Rebels. I know a lot of people who have, they enjoyed him in Rebels, and so then they've gone back and they've read the original Thrawn trilogy, and they're like, wow, okay, like this is really good too. Like it's different versions of Thrawn, and they enjoy both of them. So I think it's both. I think that it's the fandom has still always been there and been hungry for an outlet. And then with bringing in these Legends characters in the newer material, I think that is bringing in new fans who I want to welcome them in and give them a place where they can explore what came before without any gatekeeping or, shame, any of those things.
That's a really good point you make there, because, and Mark will know this because his partner Karen dresses as Mara Jade. There's people in the 90s who would have argued quite convincingly that Mara was like the character of the 90s, and Boba Fett was the other character of the 90s because of his Dark Horse appearances. So there's a whole era of Star Wars where characters that are now maybe not so celebrated and not so widely seen were megastars within the Star Wars sphere.
And this is not to be negative about things that are coming out today, but when people, as part of criticizing things as part of being a fan of it, and when people have expressed, with some of the female characters, some of the things that have been done with them in the more recent stuff, I always use that a moment to recruit more Mara Jade fans, because her story is so complex, and society would not expect there to be such a complex character coming out of the 90s who has this, troubled past and has all of this personal growth, goes through, overcoming the trauma that she's been through. And the craziest part for me is that she ends up as Luke Skywalker's wife, but that is never her defining feature. When the sequels were coming out and now there's, rumors of her being in other things, and people are like, oh, Katherine, you must be are you excited? Mara Jade might come back. And I'm just I feel like it and I don't think that an iteration of her within Disney Star Wars would be Luke's wife, just because that door has kind of been shut, I feel like. But it is so difficult from a writing perspective to have a character who is married to the main character of the franchise and not have her revolve around him. And it is such a testament to Timothy Zahn's writing that was never the case. She was always her own person. She always had her own plot lines, and she was always in charge of the situation she was in. So yeah, I think there's a lot of we want to celebrate those things, but again, bringing in new people. I always love making new Mara Jade fans by telling them oh man, you gotta check out this really awesome female character from the 90s.
I always felt like the relationship with her and Luke, to me anyway, or at least the marriage proposal, seemed to kind of come out a little bit, to me anyway, at the time, a little bit left field, out of nowhere. But what I really quite liked about that then going forward was, as you said, it was a partnership, and it didn't seem so much steeped, the Han and Leia kind of mushy romance kind of stuff. They had the moments, but it felt like a more genuine kind of relationship back. You do see kind of come out from friendship and a mutual respect from people, rather than just kind of she's fit because she's got green eyes and red hair. I think I really appreciated that. But one thing I always found, at least when they introduced Thrawn into Rebels, because it was such a markedly different medium to what we'd seen him in with Expanded Universe, was the fact that it was very hard to reconcile the two characters. However, the fact that Timothy Zahn's continued with his novels in this new canon, his voice seems to have kind of become slightly more aligned with what was kind of the character before. I mean, I know there's obviously differences with his history and stuff now, but I think that I can reconcile a lot easier than if the complete personality is a completely different kind of character.
Hi, this is Tamara Carlson-Woodard. I work on the Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
Incredibly, it's 7 years this year since Carrie Fisher passed away. Still can't believe she's not with us. Carrie starred in a film called Wonderwell, which is coming out at AMC theatres on the 23rd of June in the United States before landing on digital. The film took 7 years to come to screen. They had some digital work to do on it, and release details were tricky, but it's finally coming out. How do you feel about seeing an unseen Carrie Fisher movie all these years after her passing?
It might be a little bit surreal, but then I suppose that's the thing. If this film has just taken this long to produce, and believe it's going to be available on Apple TV, hopefully that's also available in the UK. I think anything more that we can see of Carrie, that's actually her acting rather than just doing what they did for Rise of Skywalker, which is kind of scavenge really what they could from the Last Jedi performance, is only going to be a good thing. It's going to be something that I will have to mark on my calendar and see if I can get a copy and watch it, because I think it'll be interesting. I mean, it kind of has a very fairy tale vibe about it. Just from the pictures I've seen, it kind of looks like it's, maybe a coming of age tween adventure. Got Rita Ora in it, so there's plenty to look at. Let's definitely sit down and watch it and enjoy and celebrate everything that Carrie has brought us over the years.
The director, Vlad Marvesin, remembers Carrie, and basically he said Carrie was full of energy during filming and even celebrated her 60th birthday with us in Italy where we shot the movie. After a night shoot which went on until 2 a.m, she invited the whole team to celebrate with her, and the party ended up being shut down by the police because it was deemed a little too loud. Her passing was very emotional for the whole team. You can just imagine Carrie 2 a.m. in Italy, and this is only a few weeks before, she passed at the end of 2016. So, yeah, it will be, like you say, I think it'll be a little bit surreal and obviously emotional because it's Carrie. But great news that this film's finally coming out and that her cinematic journey properly has the bow put on it now. It's her final film performance.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video, and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
Star Wars Fan Fun Day 2023, we travelled all the way up to Blackburn and spoke to a load of fantastic people, and amongst those wonderful people was Michael Jibson. You will know Michael. If you're a Hamilton fan, you'll definitely know him because he played George III and won awards for doing it. But if you're a Star Wars fan, you know him as the pilot of Kylo Ren's shuttle, who has a rather cool moment in that film. So we had the chance to sit down with Michael at Star Wars Fan Fun Day, talk about all these things and much, much more. So this is myself and Michael Jibson at Star Wars Fan Fun Day 2023. So we're here at Star Wars Fan Fun Day. I'm here with Michael.
Hello.
How is the weekend going for you so far?
It's been lovely. I mean, it's my first Star Wars convention, and I was meant to come a couple of years back, I think, and I couldn't make it. It's just, what's lovely is to just sort of meet so many people who have found this world, obviously through the films and the stories, and then they've got this whole world within the world, which is this world of fandom and collecting Star Wars stuff and signatures and meeting people and also collecting friends and you lot have all become such tight mates, and that's what I'm going to walk away from this sort of with, this memory of meeting all these lovely people who have a great bit of banter.
That's a great observation you make, collecting friends, because it kind of is part of the whole thing.
Yeah, you're collecting all this stuff which other people in other corners of the world wouldn't be interested in, but what everybody has in common, whether they go fishing or train spotting or go to the theatre or Star Wars, is that they, you find your tribe. And I think that's what I'm getting out of this, is finding you guys, watching you guys, let your cares and troubles disappear for 48 hours and have a good time together.
And then back to the madness of life.
It's the balance, isn't it? The force.
Oh, well said. Well said. So coming into the Star Wars galaxy as you did on Last Jedi, how did that all come about?
So I'm an actor. I have an agent, Nina Gold, who cast those movies. Fortunately for me, is a fan and has put me in various other films, projects. I was in Les Mis, 1917, Last Night in Soho. I'm one of those jobbing actors. I play coppers and soldiers and dads and things like that. And I got a call when The Force Awakens was sort of in post-production to say, would you be interested, from my agent, in being in it? Being in what? Being in the next Star Wars? Yes. I'm a huge fan of Star Wars.
Right.
I'm not a Trekkie. I'm not into anything else. I always watch Star Wars. Would I be interested? Yeah, of course I would. And then it was a case of, right, so this is the deal. Ryan, who's directing it, he doesn't really audition. He looks at people's show reels. And so if you're up for it, because some actors might not be up for it for whatever reason. They don't like Star Wars, or the part isn't big enough, because I think most of the lead and supporting lead roles have been cast. Do you want to be a part of the world, was, to quote what what was said.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, do you want to be a part of that world? Yes, I do want to be a part of that world. So then I had a conversation with Nina, because Nina was the casting director, and you had to sort of have a conversation with her for non-disclosure agreement reasons and things like that. And then Ryan looked at my showreel, and I was apparently put on the list. And then I remember being in my agent's office in the autumn, because it came out in December, Force Awakens did. And I remember talking about something else, and my agent sort of very casually said, "Oh, and by the way, it looks like we're going to get an offer from Star Wars." And I was like, "Oh, hang on, what? Say that again." "It looks like we're going to get an offer from Star Wars." And I was like, oh my God. So that was that. But I hadn't auditioned for it. I hadn't gone through all the adrenaline of meeting big directors and getting my knickers in a twist about getting the lines. I was like, no, it's just going to Ryan's senior showreel, and it's all good. So cut to December the 16th, 2015, which I think was the day that it was released, The Force Awakens. I'm from Hull originally, and I was up in Hull, and I went to see it on the morning it was out at 10 o'clock. I went on my own because I was up there without my wife was working, and my daughter was being looked after by grandparents. So I went on my own. And it was my birthday.
Right.
So I was like, well, I'm going to treat myself and go to see Star Wars. So I went to see The Force Awakens and had a great time of nostalgia, sitting you know, the credits are rolling. I'm in a cinema in my hometown where I don't live anymore. This is cool. And I remember thinking, wouldn't it be cool if it comes my way? And this is no word of a lie, as the credits rolled, my phone started buzzing in my pocket. Oh, somebody's calling me. Picked it up. It was my agent.
Right.
And I'm sort of in the middle of walking out of the auditorium with, you know, playing in the background. Sorry, Tom. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I've just finished watching Star Wars. Oh, that's great, mate. How was it? Oh, yeah, it's great. It's great. It's so lovely to watch it again and sort of be part of the world. Well, funnily enough, you're going to be in the next one. And I was like, and I literally wanted to stand in front of all these guys and women who'd just been to see the new one and go, I'm going to be in the next Star Wars. You know, that's what I wanted to shout. I'm going to be in it. Yeah. So that was that. So I ended up, so long story short, I ended up being cast. I didn't know what I was going to be playing. I knew
Would you have cared?
No, I knew I was going to have a line, and I knew that my face would be in it.
Yeah.
And I knew I would be a character, and I would have, and you sort of knew the deal that, you know, you'd have a moment in it. So then, cut to being on set. I still didn't know what I was doing. I kind of knew I was going to be a bad guy, and I should have on set, and all the sides that you get given on the day, all the script, was kind of blanked out with everything else, because again, for non-disclosure agreements. And I got on set, and Ryan sort of talked me through the green screen. That there is this mountain range, and that's Luke Skywalker down there. I was like, you know, these words being thrown.
What?
Because he hadn't appeared at this point, and I'm going, oh my God, Luke's back, and I'm going to be in a scene with him, technically. And so then we had the sort of the moment that I have in the film, which is where Kylo throws him against the wall, and I say, right away, sir, or whatever it is that I say. Yeah. It got a laugh when I saw
big
it.
Time
it's a nice moment. Yeah. And Ryan, when we got that shot, he was a lovely guy. He came over to me and said, that's your Star Wars moment. That's it. That's your moment. Okay, that's going to be you. Yeah. And he knew that I was passionate about it, because everybody there wanted to be there. So I was on set with the day that I was there with Adam Driver. And Donald Gleeson. I can't pronounce his name.
Try spelling it.
The son of the other Gleeson. Yeah. And Aid Edmondson. Yes. Which was lovely to sort of hang out with him. And I have met Aid before. And then so I just had a weird day at work. Quite uncomfortable, actually. My helmet was really
it looked awkward,
and it was really tight on the kind of temples of my head and on the bone next to your temples of the front of your skull. Yeah. So it almost bruised my head. So taking it on and off was really quite painful after like hours of wearing it. So, but first world problems. I got to be in Star Wars, and everybody was very lovely. And what I found fascinating was how the set of the cockpit of Kylo Ren's shuttle was really basic in the way it was built. It was literally twinkly lights. because obviously a lot of it's in soft focus and stuff.
Yeah.
It looked like high quality plastic set. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was really, really sort of. It felt like, oh my God, this is what it would be like in space.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
There wasn't like plasma screens in sight. It was all kind. And I think my.
It is quite low tech, isn't it, Star Wars? Generally, anyway. It's buttons and switches.
So yes, exactly. Buttons and switches and joysticks. So my because I'm the pilot, I'm steering the thing.
Yeah.
Was a joystick, an old-fashioned.
Yeah.
You know, one of those old joysticks that you'd stick on a table with a button and a trigger and that. I was like, well, this is like. It's like an Atari joystick.
I was literally going to say Atari,
you know?
yeah.
So it was cool. It was a good day, and that was that. And I shot it, and I made the cut, and I had my Star Wars moment, and here I am today, and I've met all you lovely people, and I've just bought I've just don't tell my wife I've just bought a lightsaber.
I thought you were going to say a season ticket.
No, I've just I've just bought a lightsaber, an expensive lightsaber.
Is that the Mace Windu one?
Yeah, it's
nice.
It's Samuel L. Jackson's.
Yeah.
So and it's a proper high-end Disney certified, quite expensive, with all the bells and whistles. And so I thought, do you know what? I'm in Star Wars. I'm here working today. I'm going to purchase some merch.
If you can't buy a lightsaber when you've been in Star Wars, there's a problem, isn't there?
Exactly. So I thought, why not? So I'm gonna be showing all my mates that. I might take it down the pub next week.
You should. And what else is happening with you? What else is happening work-wise?
So I've been really busy over the past 5 years or so. I do a lot of theatre, and I haven't done any theatre for a while. I was in Hamilton, the musical, which some people may know about. I played King George in that. I play a lot of dads and coppers on TV, which is great. ITV, Netflix and stuff. The things I've got coming out, there's one thing coming out that I can't really talk about at the moment, and then there's something else called, which I can talk about, which is called, but I can't talk much about it.
Sure.
It's called Bodies, which is going to be on Netflix, and it's got Stephen Graham in it and various other brilliant actors, and I play one of the sort of main supporting roles in that. It's a big time travel. It's a DC comic, actually, that's been expanded and turned into a series. It's a big time travel whodunit kind of saga. Very, very, I mean, you know, it sounds cliche, but you read scripts and sometimes you're like, oh, I've got to get through this script, and the pages turned. And then the first act and first episode was like, wow, this is a cliffhanger, and then my character really comes into it. So I'm really excited about that. It's going to be on, hopefully, I think later this year, Bodies, on Netflix. And I mean, bits and bobs. I was on telly the other night. I'm in 1917, and
nice.
I'm a jobbing actor who likes to play different roles.
I was going to say, you like being busy, you like getting around and playing different characters.
Yeah. So I've got auditions coming up. Busy this week, a couple of auditions and stuff. So who knows what's next?
Fantastic.
It's all good.
But you've been in Star Wars and you've had your
Star
moment.
Wars and I bought a lightsaber, so I can die happy.
You certainly can. Thanks for your time.
Pleasure.
Really appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Cheers.
Thank you.
So we actually spoke about premieres earlier on and how we haven't had one for a while, but actually we did. We kind of got a premiere of a new trailer for the new Ubisoft Star Wars Outlaws, which is really the first open-world Star Wars game set in between the events of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi to come out, and that's coming out next year, 2024, on all the next-gen consoles, so PS5, Xbox and PC. It's basically a game where you play the character Kay Vess. They call her a scoundrel, and it's set in the underworld and the fringe elements, and this looks to be something that could be a lot of fun. Mark, have you seen the trailers or even the gameplay walkthrough?
I have. I thought the trailer was fantastic. I thought the walkthrough was fascinating because one of the things they're really pushing the open world element, obviously, and I hope in time that includes being able, like you could with Galaxies and Old Republic, designing your own character, naming your own character. I hope there's those elements that come into it at some juncture with expansions. But for now, let's play as Kay Vess because the character looks really interesting, and I love the droid that she's with the trench coat on. I think that's really cool. Yeah. So I'm all in for that. But the thing that really struck me, and the producers and the creators talk about it in the video, is how 1 minute you're in a gunfight, then you're running to the ship, then you're running to the cockpit and powering up, and like many games, all of a sudden next thing you know there'll be a screen fade and you'd be in space shooting TIE fighters. But not with this. You're actually taking off and going through the clouds, and it feels like a real-time thing. before you have your battle with the TIE fighters and then jump to hyperspace. So it's very much from all the way through the different various levels that classic games do, RPG type stuff, and then space combat stuff, and then navigating and plotting and going places. It looks awesome. As you know, I'm not a massive gamer, but I'm really looking forward to this. And also, I'm hoping there'll be a soundtrack that goes with it, because they generally do drop the soundtracks, which I always find really interesting to listen to. So I'm proper excited for this. Probably be on the PC for me.
No, I mean, this looks really good. The gameplay is quite interesting. At first blush, you could say it looks very much like Jedi Survivor, and there's some kind of very similar elements. Kay herself actually has a little companion, and it's not BD1. It's actually a little critter called Nix, and he can help you out. It can go and pick up weapons whilst you're in firefights, can switch things on and off, and just generally help you out. And yeah, you've got the kind of like, it's not a battle droid, is it? It's just kind of one. It's was it MB5 or something like that. So so there's some very, I'd say, similar or familiar Star Wars tropes when it comes to Star Wars games these days, kind of coming into this. You have more of a freighter of a ship, which is cool because it generally means that it's bigger. That allows expansion in itself and a little bit of exploration. And I think that's really the biggest difference. And that's the thing, but the difference really between an open world and an MMO is the fact that you play the character and you experience and explore the galaxy through them, rather than, as you kind of mentioned, kind of create your own character and do stuff in your own time. This will kind of still have a storyline element that will feed you through. And there's some really cool things, like you can decide if you're going to bribe Imperial officials. A bit like with Grand Theft Auto, you get a wanted level by the Imperials, and depending on how high that is, depends how much heat you get on the planet, and also when you fly into space. And it's all kind of set around the fact that she kind of botches a mission, or she gets set up and then she's kind of put on the most wanted list. So that's why there's this whole wanted level thing. Basically what she's doing is she's trying to kind of clear her name. They're bringing in a lot of fringe elements. So you've got Jabba the Hutt is there, and in the trailer you saw Han Solo in Carbonite. So that, I think, for many fans clearly helps to kind of define the time period when it's set. Pikes are there as well, and I think there's also a couple of other kind of different fringe guilds which we're going to kind of run into. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, the problem that I have when it comes to playing open world games is generally time. Some of these games like Witcher and Skyrim and stuff like that, you sink a lot of gaming hours into it, and you can kind of get caught up doing little kind of side missions that actually just generally you just kind of find yourself just losing 4 or 5 hours. My brother's kind of big on Elder Scrolls and Skyrim and stuff like that, and the amount of hours that he's spent on that. And similarly, I guess for me, I play a lot of Grand Theft Auto, but that seems to be a little bit easier to kind of pick up and drop down without having to put too much time investment into each gaming session, whereas some of these things you have to really spend a good portion of time doing. So it'll be interesting to see how they balance that. Interesting to see what the rewards are, because the manufacturers and the makers of games say, everything's very lucrative. So like you do a mission, you get credits, and it's like, surely that means that you're going to be able to go and buy stuff. Is it going to be upgrades to your ship? Is it going to be upgrades to weapons or cosmetics and what have you? So that'll be interesting, and it'll be interesting to see if there's a online aspect to the game or if it is purely just solo play. And also, again, the good thing with open worlds is that you can do bigger downloadable expansions. So it means that this game could just be something that hangs around for several years and just gets expanded upon, which makes it even bigger and even more immersive. So this is kind of the game that I think a lot of people wanted Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor to be. And Jedi Survivor is in itself slightly more open world than its predecessor, but it's still not quite as big as it possibly could be. So this, I think, was very welcome by a lot of people when the trailer dropped.
Hey, it's Alyssa Wong, writer of Dr. Aphra, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
So earlier in the episode, we caught up with Katherine Winchell to talk all about Legends Con, and let's continue that conversation in part 2 as myself and Mark continue talking to Katherine.
Tell us more about the Legends Consortium then. How did it kind of come about?
Well, it really was just a group of like-minded people found each other, really. There were some circumstances where the discussion was being kicked around of doing a Star Wars Legends convention. And those of us who had event planning experience, and in addition to event planning experience, also there's so many other things you need to run an event. Like you need to have an art team and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But basically everybody with like the skills that are needed for it, from that original like group where this was being discussed, we basically just picked up, shuffled over, and plopped down and said, okay, we're going to do this, because we really wanted to build this space that, for us to love Star Wars Legends in a place that was going to be inclusive and positive, because there is so much negativity all over the Star Wars fandom. Like it's everywhere. And that we wanted to create the exact opposite of that. We wanted to create somewhere that is just, we're here because we love it and we want to build something for the community. Yeah, so it's myself. This is the second convention that I've founded. I founded a queer comics convention at my university my senior year, which just celebrated its 7th year of running, which is I'm so thrilled about that like it's still going today. And that's actually how Pride Squadron was formed out of that convention, which, that's a whole other story. And then during the pandemic, I was doing the Rebel Legion started doing webathon events in order to raise money to help, the various organizations that were working to combat the COVID-19 crisis. And Rebelthon, the first Rebelthon I wasn't involved with. And then after that, because I am such an Expand Universe nerd, I started talking to Bill Holmes and I was like, hey, Star Wars Reads Month is always like a really big thing in the costume clubs. We get so many event requests from schools and libraries and, comic book stores. What if we did a virtual thing for that, and also like used it to raise money specifically for like helping maintain education during this pandemic. Yeah. And from that, Rebel Reads was born, which really like kind of I would say that that's a precursor to Legends Con, just because that led to me building relationships with so many more authors for the Star Wars universe. That's how I got in contact with Matthew Stover the first time. We had a really great interview there. And so when it came time for Legends Con, I just, typing back up to him, and same with Sean Stewart, just being like, hey man, how's it going? Guess what? Now I want to do this in person. So yeah, we have a few other people outside. Like it's a good mix of people both in and outside of the costume clubs, which I think is important so that we have fresh perspectives and a diversity of experience. Like one of the other people who has done large scale event planning before, she works in dentistry, and it is dentistry conventions that she has helped work on before, which is something completely different, but she brings things to the table that I don't know. And we have another person, Swotorista, who's very famous within the SWTOR community because she makes these great tutorials and makes it a welcoming place to everybody. She's professionally organized conventions and she has an advisory role with us, and every time we're about to kind of drift off in an area that we shouldn't, she comes in and she's like, wait guys, yeah, there's like a dozen people overall working on the conventions, so it's probably not time to go through all of them, but yeah, it's just a really solid group of people. We made contact with Pete Vilmer early on from Lucasfilm so that we're staying within our lane in terms of intellectual property. And yeah, we're just here to make an event for the community.
And
Fantastic.
Is your hope to establish this as something that's ongoing? Because it does feel like, weirdly, an untapped resource. Obviously, we've mentioned Lucasfilm are sort of dipping into Legends and pulling bits out, but as you say, there's decades of books and decades of comics that were kind of parked to the side, that people coming into Star Wars now, obviously their main focus will be new television, new movies, current comics and books, but there's this whole wealth, this massive library of stuff that they could dive into if they wanted to. Is your hope to sort of bring that back to the fore?
Yes, we are planning to, if everything goes well, which is I can segue this into the next thing of, if everything goes well, we do plan to make this semi-annual, probably not every year, just because we're all volunteers and need a break. This is my entire life right now. Like, I get home from work, I work on the Mars rover stuff all day. I get home, I open up my laptop, I start working on Legends Con. My cat is so angry that I don't, play with, I still play with him, but he's just like, how dare you not pay attention to me? So Yeah, probably not every year. But one thing for sure is that we do plan to bounce it on opposite sides of the US. Unfortunately, we have no plans to bring it to the UK just because of our current team. We don't have anyone who is there because, you have to have boots on the ground to have do a convention. But yeah, we plan to go between, kind of West Coast and more like Midwest or East Coast, probably like every year and a half to 2 years. But as part of that, a part of, like making this event a success is, of course, comes down to funding, because everything revolves around money. And as a first year convention, it's rough to get started. And so what we have going on right now is a Kickstarter, which you can just search Kickstarter Legends Con, come up with it. I'm sure there'll be a link as part of this as well. And we are really hoping to reach our goal. Donations to that will go towards, we have some necessary expenses that we'd like to pay sooner rather than later. And also just bringing in more guests. We have more people both who have contacted us and would like to come. And, we want to be able to pay their expenses, but it's just not in our budget right now. As well as there's a few other big names that, we really like to reach out to. But again, it's not in our budget right now. So we're really, really hoping for community support. The Kickstarter runs through June 26th. As of recording right now, we're between like halfway and 2/3 of the way to reaching the goal. Kickstarter is all or nothing. So if we do not reach the goal of $3,000, we don't get anything, and nobody's card get charged. Even if you cannot make it to Legends Con, there are still benefits to donating. The first one I would say is just being part of the community support, because, if you believe in making this space for Legends fans that is positive and is not gatekeeping, helping us make that a reality, we really would appreciate it. But outside of that, like, nebulous concept, we will be recording the panels. One of the guidelines from Lucasfilm is that we couldn't live stream, but they didn't say anything about recording it and posting it later. So we're going to do that. So you'll still be able to enjoy all the panels that we record. We're planning to record, pretty much everything unless the people on the panel would prefer it not to be recorded. We also have rewards for anyone who donates more than $15. It ranges from stickers that will feature Expanded Universe characters, all the way up to an exclusive t-shirt that's only available through the Kickstarter. And then those of us who are on the leadership team, we're also going to get the shirt, but there's going to be like, probably less than 25 of them made overall. And if you can make it out to Burbank, we'd love to see you. And if you donate via our Kickstarter, a ticket is an add-on for any donation tier. And because of both a discount and not having the fees that are on our main sales platform, it's about $25 less to get your ticket via Kickstarter. Definitely check that out. Yeah, just, help us make this a reality. We really value the community support, and this is for the community. And whether or not this works out well enough to do it another year will be dependent on the community turnout. So please help us make it happen.
It's a fascinating endeavor. It really is. And it's long overdue.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see what this turns into. Like, I believe in this community. I believe that this community is hungry for this. And one of the guidelines that we got from Lucasfilm was about like how many like individual turnstiles there can be like for, the event as a whole. And like we laughed at that number, because like for a first year event, we're not going to be anywhere near that. But, somebody working on it, on the event was like, hey, but like if this goes to like by like the third or fourth, fifth time that we do this, that is going to be a problem. Like that is going to be a limitation, and that's fine. I wouldn't want the event to be bigger than what that number is, because again, we're all volunteers, and good grief, I could not deal with that. But just it does have a potential to grow and become something. And I really hope that it does breathe a little bit more life back into the Legends fandom. Have people bring out their costumes that they haven't worn in a while. That was one of the super fun things about the photo shoot was, people were excited to have, like you take Atten Rand to most places and nobody knows who that is. But at our photo shoot that we did, we have all these other KOTOR characters there who are so excited to have Atten, play off of Atten for some of their photos, and like we got out a POSIC deck, and we were having all kinds of fun taking those pictures. So I really hope that it leads to more creative expression within the fandom, more people making fan art and doing fan films and just talking about the books. Yeah, I can't wait to see what this becomes.
I'm just on your Facebook page at the moment, which is facebook.com/Legends Consortium, and I'm just flicking through the photos. And for me, someone who's been in the costume community for like the last 16 plus years, there's definitely a few familiar faces I can see in those photos. Everybody looks amazing. So I mean it's a fantastic idea. And also what's really cool is the fact that it's not just another kind of Comic-Con, like a run-of-the-mill Comic-Con. Like over here in the UK, me and Mark could literally go to a Comic-Con every single weekend, and I'm sure it's probably similar in the US. So the fact that you found a really nice, well, some people may say like a niche topic, but actually when you kind of delve into it, it's just so expansive. I think a lot of people will be surprised, and hopefully a lot of people will end up going to the Burbank Airport Marriott Convention Center on September 9th and 10th, because it's a wonderful idea. And I reckon, Mark, me and you, we should try and club together so we can get a name of one of the rooms named after us on Kickstarter.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, as one of the, and as I'm sitting here, I thought of one other huge thing I need to mention. But yes, as part of our Kickstarter, one of the top tier rewards is the ability to name a panel room. We do have to have some limitations on it, because one of the guidelines that we got from Lucasfilm is that any sponsors have to officially already be Star Wars partners. So our interpretation of that is that we couldn't have the Fantha Tracks panel room, unfortunately, as much as we'd like that to be. But if you wanted it to be the Bantha Herd room or something like that, that's definitely doable. And the one other thing before I forget, I should have brought this up earlier, all of the proceeds from this event are going to go to the Peter Mayhew Foundation. Yeah. One of the guidelines that we received from Lucasfilm is that all event proceeds have to go to charity. And, we talked about it as a group, and really just, it was unanimous that we decided we wanted to have it go to the Peter Mayhew Foundation. I'm sure you guys have talked about them many times on your show, but just quick recap for anyone who hasn't heard of them before. Founded by the late Peter and Angie Mayhew. I personally refer to what they do as guerrilla charity work, because basically people will come to them in crisis because of medical things or something traumatic has happened to them and they're out of options. They don't have, the insurance won't cover it, and they're able to just make it happen for them, make it so that that kid can get the surgery that they need, can get the medication that they need, as well as they do toy drop-offs at hospitals and stuff like that. But just a really fantastic organization. We're so excited to work with them, and any proceeds that we have from the convention 100% goes to them. So that'll be really cool.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to have you back on. We'll have you on again, I'm sure, very soon, because you've got loads to talk about. So we'll definitely speak again soon.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Again, our Kickstarter ends June 26th.
Cool. So thank you to Katherine and to Michael Jibson for stopping by and having a chat with us. And of course, as Katherine was saying, the Legends Con is on September 9th and 10th at the Burbank Airport Marriott Convention Center. And make sure you check out the Kickstarter fundraiser for Legends Con, which can be found at kickstarter.com/project/LegendsCon/event 2023, and see if we can get them past their goal and get the event funded. That is all the time we have for today. No listeners' question, but don't despair. I'm sure we may have one next week. And if we don't, and you would like to send one in, Mark, can you tell people how they can do that?
If you want to be a part of the action and stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news, visit fanthatracks.com or check out the free Fantha Tracks app through the App Store to follow us on your mobile device. You can reach out to us and send in your listeners' questions by emailing radio@fanthatracks.com. As Mark says, we didn't get one this week. We've had a couple for the last 2 weeks, and hopefully we'll have a couple for the next 2 weeks, so get them in. Comment, like and share on any of our social media feeds at Fantha Tracks, and be sure to subscribe, leave a review, preferably a 5-star one, on Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcatcher or smart speaker of choice. And as always, thanks to James Semple for composing the Fantha Tracks intro, Adam O'Brien for our Making Tracks opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. Remember, tune in to Good Morning Tatooine. It's live Sunday evenings, 9 o'clock UK time, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, on Facebook, YouTube, and now on Twitch. And check out our Fantha Tracks Radio Friday night rotation every Friday night at 7 o'clock UK time for new episodes of The Fantha from Down Under, Planet Leia, Desert Planet Discs, Start Your Engines, Collecting Tracks, Cannon Fodder, and special episodes of Making Tracks. And check us out every Tuesday, 7 o'clock UK time, for your weekly episode of Making Tracks, except for tonight, because it's coming out on Wednesday. And that's me done for this episode.
Thanks for that, buddy. Everybody, stay safe, take care, and we will see you. Or if not, you'll hear us next week and next week's episode of Making Tracks. Until then, may the Force be with you.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's Desert Planet Discs.
I wonder if it's come from Disney, and I wonder if it's come from Bog Iver.
Outtakes.